You're watching Battle of Champions, our special show on the T20 World Cup, and this is the game that 1 billion plus Indians were waiting for, because here on they would expect Afghanistan to do them a favor and thereby ensure that India makes it to the semi-final of the T20 World Cup. It wouldn't be wrong to say that this could possibly be the most watched game of this T20 World Cup, maybe even rivals that India versus Pakistan clash. You're watching Battle of Champions. I'm your host Nikhil. Joining me on the show would be two Indian legends in Harbhajan Singh and Sunil Gavaskar, but I'll get to them a little later. Just to sum up what the mood is in the entire nation, let me just show you what the headlines in one of the leading Hindi dailies of the country is, and this is from Dainik Jagran. I quote, and they have written, Teri jeet, meri jeet, teri haar, meri haar. That means everything depends on Afghanistan. If Afghanistan wins, India wins. Of course, they've quoted that famous line from the film Sholay. Let me just show you that headline again. And this is not just limited to the media, as I was showing you. It is also on social media. Plenty of memes doing the round. Everyone wanting Afghanistan to win this encounter. Let's start with this one, where Ravi Singh has taken the picture from that famous film Munna Bhai MBBS, where Sanjay Dutt is getting ready for the exams. He's made Rashid Khan there and the Indian team is preparing him. Then this is from the film Dhamal, where they're showing that just as Australia were dependent on England, India are now dependent on Afghanistan. This is from that famous film Ab Tumhare Hawale Watan Sathiyo. They're obviously talking about the Afghanistan team, where 1.3 billion Indians are telling the Afghanistan fans. Here a famous scene from that cricket-oriented movie Lagan, where he says, "Hamari izzat ab tumhare haath mein hai kachra," obviously referring to the spinners, because Afghanistan have got plenty of spinners. This is from that famous television series called Roadies, where they say, Rashid Khan says, "I'm not a messiah." They say, "No, you don't know what powers you have." Talking about Rashid Khan, this comes from a Twitter handle from Afghanistan. Sheikh Mansi Hasina writes, Rashid Khan eating Afghan jalebis, and he would need all of that strength now to beat the New Zealand team. So as I said, plenty of Indians now are pinning their hopes on the Afghanistan team. Plenty of good banter, as we just showed you on social media, but plenty of banter when it comes to the Indian team as well, because before this game there were doubts about Mujeeb, one of the mystery spinners that Afghanistan has. Will he be available for this game or not, because he was going through an injury? And this is R. Ashwin. When he was asked, what if Mujeeb doesn't play, he says, don't worry, we'll even offer the Indian physio to ensure that Mujeeb is fit and takes the field versus New Zealand. Listen in to Ravichandran Ashwin. Okay, Ashwin says we'll provide physio support, but here's an update that we're getting from Abu Dhabi. That is that Mujeeb has reached the ground. So that's the first indication that he might just be fit and may take the field in this very crucial encounter. We'll get to the playing 11s, the all-crucial toss a little later. But first, let's talk about this contest head-to-head. Usually we take a look at how the two teams have performed previously. But in this case, there is no reference point between Afghanistan and New Zealand, because believe it or not, these two teams haven't ever played a T20I international. Yet there will be a very close contest. The scenarios will keep changing. Also, the run rate might come into play from Afghanistan's perspective, because Afghanistan won't just be looking to win this encounter. If they win by a big margin, they throw their hat into the ring as far as the semi-finals are concerned. We've just made it really simple for you to look at the scenarios and figure out which team will make it to the semi-finals. Right, Harbhajan Singh joins us on the show. Bhaji, we're building this encounter up as a very even contest, because we know that Afghanistan can upset any team. But to be fair, you'd have to see that, in terms of pedigree, in terms of past performances, New Zealand still a better and a bigger team than Afghanistan. So clearly going as the favourites.
See, they have been in this situation before, and they know what exactly to do in those situations and what to do when they're playing against Afghanistan. But this is the only format where I would back Afghanistan to beat any team. I'm not just talking about Afghanistan, New Zealand. I think they have the capability to beat any team, because T20 is a format which allows you to just go out there and express yourself, and that's exactly what these Afghanis they does. They do. These Afghanistan batsmen, they go out there, they express themselves. They are not afraid of any name or any bowler. they just go on and play their shots. And if they get to score 160, 170, they're going to put a lot of pressure on New Zealand. And T20 is a format, and I certainly believe that this format, give everyone a chance to win. It doesn't have to be a big team or a small team. Any team can beat any team.
Okay, very interesting you say that if Afghanistan get 160 odd, they'll be in with a chance, because the latest update that we're now getting from Abu Dhabi is that Afghanistan have won the toss, and no surprises there. They have decided to bat first. Now, many might say that in this tournament we've seen teams that are chasing better have done well, but don't forget, Afghanistan's strength is bowling, so they would back their bowlers then to defend whatever target their batsmen were to set. So from Afghanistan's perspective, you would have to say the right decision has been made. Just giving you some stats which may not be too relevant for Afghanistan, but because it's being played in Abu Dhabi, the day games that have been played here in this T20 World Cup, 5 day games we've had before this, 4 times the team that has been chasing a total has ended up on the winning side. Now that's going to give some sort of heart to the New Zealand team, because they've lost the toss and they will be chasing. So in terms of that record, New Zealand might not be too disappointed after losing the toss. In terms of New Zealand's record in this tournament, batting first, they've won 2 out of 3, and when they've been chasing, they've only chased once in this tournament and they won that particular encounter. So their chasing record is also 100% in this tournament. So New Zealand also would be happy to be chasing. But again, I'm going back to Afghanistan's perspective. Many experts, and we had Sunny Gavaskar joining us yesterday, he said the best chance that Afghanistan will have if they bat first, put a total, and because there will be no dew factor in this encounter. Remember, it's a day game, so the spinners won't have too much of trouble gripping the ball and they'd be able to bowl. So all of that evens out. The other big news coming from Afghanistan's camp, and this is going to really delight a lot of our Indian viewers, Mujeeb Ur Rahman, the mystery spinner who was injured and missed out the 2 previous games for his team, and we saw what happened against India. They ended up on the losing side, so they clearly missed their mystery spinner who bowls in the power play. He is back into the playing 11, so that's very, very crucial. That means Afghanistan will have their tried and tested 3-pronged spin attack that can cause a lot of trouble to the Kiwi batsmen. So 2 pieces of good news there for Afghanistan. One, they've won the toss, they will be batting first, and Mujeeb is also back in the 11. I'll get reactions from Harbhajan Singh on this. Harbhajan, first, Afghanistan, I'm guessing this is what they would have wanted, won the toss, batting first, and would expect their batsmen then to put a decent total on board.
Yeah, Afghanistan batting first, obviously they would like to get 150, 160 on board, maybe 170. If they get first 6 over 50, 60 runs, they can go on to score 160, 170. And once you have, those many runs on the scoreboard, then that you have the bowlers of Rashid Khan's quality and Mujeeb and all the other bowlers who can put pressure on New Zealand batters, which is like, they have not fired yet in this whole tournament. Kane Williamson have not fired. So it's important to score runs on the board and put pressure on New Zealand batters when they come to bat.
The other great news from the Afghanistan camp, Harbhajan, because you just referred to Mujeeb. Mujeeb is now making a comeback after missing out on those 2 games. Now he's part of that playing 11. One thing, the spin factor that he brings in, the mystery factor that he brings into the team. The other being that when he's not playing, their entire plan around how to go about in the power play, that gets upset. All in all, great news then for Afghanistan. He's back.
Well, obviously, it's a great news for Afghanistan. Mujeeb is playing. Of course, he's someone, who bowls really well in the power play and take those important wickets and put Afghanistan ahead in the game, whenever he plays. So, yeah, it's going to be exciting to see, how well he bowled today against New Zealand. And New Zealand have not faced him. And he's a big, big challenge. I would rate him, one of the best doing the job in first 6 overs, if not the best. So looking forward to it, and let's see, how New Zealand will tackle him in the first 6 overs and then afterward as well.
All right, we gave you two pieces of good news. Harbhajan, stay on with us. I'll get back to you. We gave you two pieces of good news as far as Afghanistan is concerned. One, that they'll be batting first. They would like that. And then Mujeeb making it to the playing 11. But let's take a look at this very interesting stat. And this might please all of the fans that would be supporting New Zealand. That's because if you take a look at Afghanistan's record in T20 internationals against more established teams, well, then that doesn't make for very good reading. In fact, all the big teams that they've played, and I'm talking about England and India, as well as Pakistan, South Africa, Sri Lanka, against all of them, they've never won a single T20I international. The only team that they have beaten in T20I internationals, a team of repute here I'm talking about, is West Indies. They've played 7 matches against them. They've won 3 and lost 4. So at least they have 3 victories to show when it comes to the West Indies team. The rest of the big teams they've never beaten. Unfortunately, there is no Australia mentioned there. There is no New Zealand mentioned there. That's because they've never played against Australia and New Zealand in a T20 international. All right, we'll get to the Afghan batting as well, how the batsmen perform a little later. But let me go back to Harbhajan Singh now. Harbhajan, we saw that record just now, which went on to say that Afghanistan doesn't have a great record against big teams. But in this particular encounter, you'd also have to factor in the thing that New Zealand's going to be under tremendous pressure. One, it's a must-win game for them, and secondly, chasing a total in an all-important game brings a lot of pressure with it.
100%. They will be looking at that scenario. If they win well, they can also go ahead and play in the semi-final, and that will be a big thing for Afghanistan cricket. And they certainly have that team. They certainly have that mentality, and the game as well to back it up with that they can beat anyone. So it's going to be a great game to watch, and I'm hoping Afghanistan actually go on to play some very good cricket today, and we get to see a very good game of cricket. And New Zealand from the other side, they also know the conditions. They know what is going to be the run rate they need, and how they need to win this game, and how important it is going to be, to deal with Rashid Khan and Mujeeb, if at all he gets to play today. So yeah, it's in a tricky sort of situation all the teams are in, but all the teams must be looking forward for this game. Even though India is not playing today, but the whole Indian, across the world, they'll be praying for Afghanistan to beat New Zealand today.
All right, Harbhajan, you use that word tricky, and I'm going to use that same word again to ask my next question. Tricky is the New Zealand middle order as well, as we've been seeing, not in great form. And I'm also including someone like a Kane Williamson there. Is that the chink in the armor of the Kiwi team that Afghanistan can exploit?
Yes, most certainly. You see, they have not played Rashid Khan. Most of them, they are new in the team, apart from Kane Williamson and Jamie Neesham. They are probably the most experienced player in the middle order. Yes, Guptill have played many games, for New Zealand, and most of his runs have come in New Zealand conditions. This is going to be some sort of tricky kind of, question for New Zealand to, go out there and face the quality spin, what Afghanistan have in the middle order. And if they get to, go past Kane Williamson early on, they can certainly put a lot of pressure on this batting lineup of New Zealand. So let's see how New Zealand will cope up with this pressure and look to score those runs they need on the board to win against this team, Afghanistan. Of course, Afghanistan is one of those teams. They can certainly believe that they have the team, they have the talent, they can beat anyone, not just New Zealand. They can probably beat Australia, India or Pakistan on their day.
All right, on that note, Harbhajan Singh, thanks so much for joining us. If they do manage to beat New Zealand, of course, we'll have you back on India today, and we'll be dissecting that game if Afghanistan, as we're saying, ends up beating New Zealand. But before we wrap up the show, let's quickly show you what the Kiwi bowlers can expect as far as the Afghanistan batting is concerned. We all know that Afghanistan has some great spinners, but look out for a few young batsmen that they have. One of them is Hazratullah Zazai, the opener, a left-handed opener, and he's got the fastest 50 in all of T20 cricket in 12 balls, tied with Yuvraj Singh and Chris Gale there. His highest score is 162, imagine, in a T20 international international. He's got that against Ireland, and other than that, he's also hit 6 sixes in an over, and he happens to be only the 6th player to have done so in competitive cricket. Mohammad Shehzad, everyone knows him as a replica of MS Dhoni. MS Dhoni is as idle, he bats like him. So the experience you can see, he's played 69 T20I international, so that's very important. Has got 12 50s, 100, so expect an explosive start from the Afghanistan openers. And then you've got Rahmanullah Gurbaz, who will bat at number 3. Another youngster, just 19 years of age, wicketkeeper, batsman. He's very, very explosive, has played 17 T20I internationals, has averaged 30 in that. Strike rate incredible at 141. Also plays a lot of these franchise cricket around the globe and has done very, very well. So plenty of young guns there for the Kiwi Pacers to contend with. 2 of them we just showed you. And as far as the Afghanistan bowling is concerned, you are all very familiar with the likes of Rashid Khan and Mujeeb as well as Nami. We'll see you at the end of the game, and here's hoping that Afghanistan go on to beat New Zealand, and then India makes it to the semi-finals.